Barca got their lick, man. Barca got their lick back. And I think this is the game, right? That if you didn't watch Barca much this season, or you still had doubts over big games, maybe you had doubts over certain players, this is the game, chat, that I think you look at FC Barcelona and you say, yeah, for the first few months of this season up to this point, they have been the hottest team in all of Europe. It's incredible what we've witnessed from Hansi Flick in such a short amount of time. They've absolutely demolished Bayern, especially in transition tonight. The first half was actually pretty even. I thought Bayern played a decent first half. I thought Bayern, in terms of the way they were trying to keep the ball, they fashioned out a few decent chances. Kane was so close to finding an opener before he ended up getting another one. The first half was okay, and they still were down 3-1. And then the second half, honestly, I think Barca just up the tempo a little bit more, and it was just men versus boys, which is so ironic because you look at that Barca team and they have so many boys on this team, man. It's such a young squad. But what Hansi Flick has managed to do, and here's the thing, right? I'm watching Barca and I'm watching Bayern, and I've watched football for a long time, right, chat? And it's almost like the two of them, Bayern and Barca, over the summer have swapped identities. They've swapped footballing philosophies. Barca, for, I would say, yeah, honestly, the fabric of FC Barcelona, even before Pep, it's a team that wants to keep the ball. It's a team that prioritizes possession above anything else. It's a team that wants to have a stranglehold over the other in terms of domination, in terms of just keeping the ball, tiki-taka, relentless passing, and then when they lose it, swarm to get it back. Whereas Bayern, for as long as I can remember, and particularly since Robben and Ribéry were at the club, right? They've always been a team that, in transition, on the counterattack, they're absolutely lethal. They kill you on either side. They play with a higher line, and then they kind of choke you in, and then again hit you with just break after break after break. And over the summer, Barca hired Vincent Kompany, who, for all extents and purposes, is almost like one of the coaching disciple. Pep Guardiola is like his OG, right? He's a coaching aftermath of Pep Guardiola, if you want to call it that. And then Barca have hired Hansi Flick, who is one of Bayern's favorite sons, right? He was with Joachim Löw for the longest time with the German national team, and then he took over from Bayern, won the Sextuple, and his style is so centered around German football and Bayern. But it's crazy how over the summer, both of these teams have completely changed the way they want to play now. Bayern, you watch them, they're a team that want to have 90% possession. If I look at this game, right, at one point, Barca had 32% possession, man. Barcelona had 32% possession in a game they were winning 4-1. That's unheard of. Bayern were keeping the ball for fun, but they conceded 4 chances. They conceded 4 goals until the 4th goal. They conceded a few towards the end. It's very, very interesting to see how both of these teams have gone in completely different directions. But it also shows you, right? For all this talk about teams have to play a certain way, it's not enough just to win. Barca were a team I always felt that was the case more than anything, right? I always thought, okay, Barca are the example that you have to win, but you have to do it in a certain style. But Hansi Flick is showcasing that, although it's not like Barca never keep the ball, they keep the ball quite well. They've completely switched the way they want to play, and they're reaping the rewards for it, and life goes on. It's not Pep style, it's not Enrique style, it's not Tata Martino style, it's Hansi Flick style, but it's winning style. And you look at Barca this season, the amount of goals that they've scored, the amount of batterings that they've given to teams. You look at the redemption of Robert Lewandowski, a guy that last year people were chasing out of the club. People were saying, that's it, send him to Saudi. I interviewed Lewandowski over the summer, cheeky plug. He told us, my goal is to score 30 goals by the end of the season. It's middle of October, and he's already halfway there. This guy's a legendary center forward, and I don't think often that he gets the respect that he deserves. I truly believe that. You look in the midfield. I thought today, Casado, Pedri, and Fermin Lopez were all exceptional. Exceptional. I think a lot of people won't know about Casado. He is kind of the new guy in the team, playing a role that Barca have kind of been missing ever since Sergio Busquets retired. And I think he's doing such an admirable job of it. I think he was so consistent over 90 minutes. I think Fermin Lopez, I was telling my chat during the stream, when I think of the players that get a lot of hype on Barcelona, he often doesn't. I don't even think people recognize him at times. Maybe it's because he came to the team last year and he wasn't one of the main guys, and people maybe thought, oh, he's just a stopgap. But you look at what he did last year, you look at what he did at the Olympics for Spain, and you look at what he's doing this season while Dani Olmo has kind of been out. The amount of third man runs that he kind of provides, the energy, the engine, while still keeping the ball, while still being able to make it tick and circulating the ball around like a Barcelona midfielder has to do. I think Fermin is really, really underrated, man. And then for me, Pedri. This guy's a genius. Pedri is a genius. Pedri is so smooth. Pedri is such a smooth operator, man. The way he glides on the ball, the way he skips past challenges so effortlessly. You'd be forgiven for thinking Pedri is playing at half pace sometimes, bro. It feels like he's jogging during games. But it's just because of the amount of time and space he's able to generate himself on the ball. He doesn't really get flustered when you press him. He's able to maneuver his way out of tight situations. Pedri's incredible. And whenever we talk about this class of young midfielders in his age group of himself, Musiala, Wirtz, and Bellingham, he never really kind of comes out on top in those conversations. It's always either Bellingham or, oh, I really like Musiala, or look what Wirtz is doing. But let's make this very clear. Pedri Gonzalez has been relevant for longer than any of these guys. That campaign that he gave during Euro 2021, he was the guy at 18 years old. And whether it's due to injuries or whether it's due to, I think people are they just got bored of Pedri at one point. But the reality is, when you're having a conversation with the best midfielders in the world, not even just the best young ones, Pedri's name has to rank extremely highly. And whether people forgot about it last year, because again, he missed a lot of time through injury, I think people are starting to remember what kind of quality talent we're dealing with here. This season, he's been off the charts. This season, he's been ridiculous, man. I think the defense, so good. Cubarsi and Inigo Martinez did such a good job against Kane, who I thought in the first half did his thing. He looked pretty good, Kane, in the first half. But I think in the second half, Cubarsi and Inigo Martinez didn't give him a smell. They didn't give him a chance. Cubarsi is so mature for his age, man. Honestly, this guy's so quality. On the ball, the best passing center back, maybe even in the world. Forget about young center backs. He might be the best passing center back in the world. But even physically, he's showing you that he can compete with anybody, bro. He's got grown man strength. Cubarsi is ridiculous. I think Balde and Koundé have been so good as well, too. You look at Olise, you look at Coleman, you look at Sane, you look at Gnabry, anybody who they put on the wings today, those two dealt with them. And then for me, the stars of the show, Raphinha and Yamal. Raphinha walks away with a match ball, hat-trick. The way, look, we know that Raphinha was a top player before. What he did for Leeds in the Premier League, keeping them up that one season. He was decent last year as well too. He's been good since he joined Barcelona. But the elevation in his game since Hansi Flick came in is ridiculous. And this is a guy in Hansi Flick who, when he took over at Bayern, he turned Serge Gnabry from like an okay winger, a decent winger, to on form one of the best wingers in the world. And look, I don't think Gnabry has ever come close to recreating that form before or after. And what he's doing to Raphinha feels similar. He's turning Raphinha into a guy now who can pop up in central number 10 positions, on the left, on the right. He's not only a threat on the ball, but also in transition. Look at the goals he scores today. Wearing the armband from the start, Raphinha is becoming a leader, and he's becoming a go-to guy for Barcelona. His evolution into such a great player this season, he's always been a good player, but a great player this year is remarkable. And then Lamine. I don't even think the first half was his best form this season. I didn't even think he was that spectacular in the first half. I actually think he was a little quiet. But the second half, he completely woke up. And I remember Alphonso Davies a few seasons ago, maybe it was even last season, they asked him, who's the toughest opponent you've ever played against? And I think he said Ousmane Dembele. I think he said Ousmane Dembele gave him a really difficult 90 minutes. But after tonight, I think his answer might have changed. I think his answer after tonight might have been Lamine Yamal. At 17 years old, sometimes you actually have to think to yourself when you're watching him. Just like take yourself out of the emotions of the game and actually think to yourself. He's 17. He's 17. The touches, the flicks, the passes, that ball over the top for Raphinha's hat-trick is just, it's becoming his specialty. Like Yamal's weight of pass amongst everything else is so good. He's so skillful. He's able to skip past defenders. His footballing IQ is off the charts. He's fast. He can hold his own. I think that's going to even get better as time goes on. The guy's ridiculous, man. The guy's ridiculous. And I have to say, the job that Hansi Flick is doing for Barcelona, man, it's one of the best of the last few years. Like, people last year were convinced under Xavi that Barcelona were just in a world of trouble. And he's come in and he's made what? One signing? He's made one signing, right, Chad? It's been Dani Olmo. I don't think he's made another signing as far as I know. Lost Gundogan. Barca look like a completely different team. That's coaching. If you wanted an example of how important a coach is in football, how much a difference a manager can make, Hansi Flick, the job he's done at Barcelona, it sums it up perfectly. I think they're the best team on the planet right now. And they'll really be tested about that this weekend. The first Clásico of the season at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid. Who, let's keep it real, that's going to be a tough game. Because in these kinds of games, form goes out the window. It does. A derby of this magnitude, form goes out the window. And even if form wasn't into play, Real Madrid have just had a huge comeback win against Dortmund, which could kickstart their season potentially. It's going to be a massive test. And also a Barca, they're a team that like to hit teams on transition. So do Real Madrid. So how are those two kinds of styles going to match up against each other? But the way it's looking, this is poised to be one of the most highly anticipated Clásicos that we've seen in the last few years. The last few editions for the last few seasons, I would say, especially since Ronaldo and Messi left, I don't think the Clásico has held as much drama and as much tension, as much anticipation as it had in previous editions. It's obviously still Real versus Barca, but I think it lost a bit of its allure. It lost a bit of its starlight, a bit of its glamour. This Clásico this Sunday is poised to be one of the best Clásicos that we've seen since maybe the one where Messi scored at the Bernabeu and lifted his shirt up. It's poised to be one of the best since then. I know there's been some battering since then, right? Barca destroyed them, I think 4-0 at the Bernabeu, Aubameyang and Ferran scoring. Vinicius scored a hat-trick against them. I know there's been some big games, but I'm talking about in terms of like that Sunday, I'm expecting the entire world's eyes to be glued to their screens for that game. And I don't think you've been able to say that about the Clásico for a few years now. And it's also, for me, the first Clásico where Yamal comes in as like a top dog. Yes, he played in the Clásico last year, but he was still relatively an unknown quantity that you could say, you could forgive for kind of going under the radar. This game, it's coming in as like, okay, it's Yamal versus Vinny. It's Yamal versus Mbappe. It's Raphinha versus Vinny. It's Lewa versus Mbappe. Like, that's the feeling I'm getting. I cannot wait for this, man. Honestly, Saturday is the game. Saturday is the game. We'll be doing a live watch along for that, by the way, on my Twitch. Lyes Bouzidi on Twitch. Go check that out. That's going to be a blockbuster one. But I can't finish off this review without speaking about Bayern Munich. People were talking to me at the start of the season after Bayern were destroying all these teams, Werder Bremen, Stuttgart, what is it, that Kiev team or whatever it's called. They destroyed Dynamo Kiev in the Champions League. Look at the job Company is doing at Bayern. Look at what Kane is doing at Bayern. Wow, Bayern are back. Company, this just shows that Bayern were smart to hire that guy. Like, the Burnley spell doesn't matter. And I said, you know what? Fair enough. What he's doing is great. But this isn't the first time that I've seen Bayern destroy their competition in the Bundesliga. Beat up on the bottom feeders in the Bundesliga. Speed through the Champions League group stage. I've seen Bayern do this for over 10 years. That's not impressive for me. I specifically said, and I can even find back the clip of me saying it, I'm going to judge Company when he faces the elite teams. And I even pinpointed 3 managers in the next month that I wanted to see him up against. I said, let's see Company against Xabi Alonso. Let's see Vincent Company up against Unai Emery. And let's see Vincent Company up against Hansi Flick. I pinpointed those 3 managers, let alone their teams. What's happened in those games? Bayern Munich have played Bayer Leverkusen. The game finished 0-0. Leverkusen came in for a draw. And I don't think Leverkusen ever felt any pressure that they were going to lose out on that draw. Bayern barely laid a glove on them, in my opinion. They kept the ball the whole time. They barely laid a glove on them. You look at the game against Aston Villa a few weeks later at Villa Park. Again, Villa didn't really come in looking to boss this game and win. They got a pretty nice goal at the end towards Duran, but like it was a game that very easily could have finished the draw. But Bayern, yet again, had all of the ball and barely threatened until the very end when they were basically just pushing for a last-minute equalizer. And then you look at today, it's again a game that Bayern have looked to have all of the ball, they've looked to have all of the possession, and they've been absolutely made to pay due to naive defensive tactics from Vincent Kompany and a failure to really create or bury the chances that they do have. Hansi Flick, for me today, schooled Vincent Kompany. You can talk about possession. You can talk about maybe the goal that Kane scores is a hair offside. You can talk about did Fermin really foul Kim Min-jae or not. But over the course of 90 minutes, I think Kompany has yet again shown that, look, it's impressive what he's done at Bayern, but let's not get carried away. I never got carried away, and I'm going to continue to remain level-headed with this guy. Like, if Bayern Munich, if we're going to start judging Bayern Munich managers on their ability to destroy Werder Bremen and their ability to put 9 past Dynamo Kiev, then we might as well go back to hailing Niko Kovac. Go speak about Jurgen Klinsmann. Talk about all of these guys. This is what Bayern have been doing for the beginning of time. What can you do against the elite managers at the top of the Bundesliga and in the Champions League? No matter what you want to say, that's what Bayern Munich and their manager and their players have always been judged on. And I'm sorry, the 3 biggest tests of Bayern's season this so far have resulted in failure for Vincent Kompany and Bayern. I remain to be convinced. I think the first half was okay. They weren't too bad in the first half. They kept the ball, created a few chances, had Barca on the back foot at times, but it's the ease in which, and I understand Barca are a tremendous team in transition, but it's too easy the way Barca have completely ripped apart Bayern defensively. You look towards the end, Lewandowski could have made that 5. Yamal puts the ball on an absolute play for him and he just misses his shot. But it's really, really shocking. And now Bayern are on 2 wins out of 3. Or 1 win out of 3 in the Champions League. The games will get easier, right? They've gotten past the tough games. But I'm sorry, don't ask me to judge Bayern on how they do against Wolfsburg and how they do against Hoffenheim or how they do against Werder Bremen. That's not a true test of a team's quality, especially not Bayern. But Barcelona, for me, this was their first big test of the season and they passed it with flying colors onto the Clásico. Let's see what they got, man. Bayern has completely lost its identity. There are no signs of any identity. Bayern used to be a team of men on the pitch, Now you've got bums like Kimmich in this midfield and a manager who just came after getting his previous team relegated. I just think for me, Bayern, they have no cutting edge to them, man. Honestly, they keep the ball. They're very technical in the middle of the pitch. They're neat. But me personally, they have no cutting edge. They have nothing. You never really feel like Bayern are going to like rip Barca apart today. They had a few chances, but honestly, there's no decisiveness to their game. I would say though, Bayern for me, they have a few players in this team that have no right to be in this team. Genuinely. Guerrero at right back is nowhere near good enough. Honestly. Decent left back. Good left back option. But as a starting right back for Bayern Munich, for me, he's not the level. Personally, Gnabry has never done it for me, and I think he's cooked. I think Coman, Sané, and Gnabry, none of them are at the level anymore. Muller, like, that guy's got to retire soon, bro. That guy's got to retire. Thank you for the service that you've done for this game, but you're not at the level anymore. Manuel Neuer, I think the air of inevitability and the air of, like, invincibility that you almost felt with Neuer at times, I think that's out the door. I think the center back partnership, I still remain unconvinced with Upamecano and Kim Min-jae as a pairing. And then Harry Kane for me. Look, you can throw all the counting numbers that you want at me. You can throw all of them that you want. I still remain unconvinced. Again, I think he was okay in the first half. Netted a really nice goal in the first place that got ruled out for like the slightest offsides. But I'm sorry, so often I see him being bullied with his back to goal by center backs. And today it's Inigo Martinez and Cubarsi. That's who's bullying you. I see him drifting so deep and then failing to get himself in the box when his team needs to put in crosses. How many times did Sané or Gnabry or Olise look up to cross the ball? And they did. And yes, their cross fell short, but also there's no striker in the box. This guy thinks that he's like SCN on the edge of the box going to smash in a shot from 40 yards out. Just get rid of everyone. You don't get rid of everyone, but it's a rebuild that Bayern need to do right now, bro. Let's be real. It's a rebuild. They do need to clear out a lot of this team. They do. There's players they should be building around. Pavlovic, Olise, Musiala, Alphonso Davies if they can keep him. Those are the kinds of players you need to build around. But I'm sorry, the likes of Goretzka, the likes of Muller, the likes of Coman, the likes of Gnabry, the likes of Sané. These guys, come on, bro. This is the relics of the old Hansi Flick team. They're not the level anymore. Niamh said on Saturday Social that a healthy Pedri is clear of Bellingham, but she could understand that Bellingham was rated higher at the moment. Do you agree? I don't think anyone is clear of the other. I think we're talking about the best players in the world right now. I don't like using the word clear when we're talking about world, like elite level players. But I could be convinced that Pedri's better than Bellingham. Yeah, I think Pedri is more of a natural central midfielder in terms of keeping the ball in tight spaces. I think Pedri is more of a natural central midfielder in that regard. But Bellingham also gives you something that maybe Pedri doesn't in terms of his work rate, his physicality, his ability to drive the ball forwards. His knack for goal scoring, his footballing IQ in the final third. I think Bellingham is a better final third player than Pedri is. But I think it's a matter of preference between the two of them. But I wouldn't say clear. Bayern has had chances, but other than that first goal, I never really felt them threaten Barcelona. Pedri's amazing. Casado has been a revelation after Bernal's injury. Raphinha and Yamal have been the best winger duo this season. Cubarsi and Martinez have been so solid, and all of the injured stars are returning. 43 goals in 13 games. Barca will cook this season. That comes from Al Dusty in my chat. I completely agree, man. 43 goals in 13 games. And this is just what Hansi Flick does. When he went to Bayern Munich, it was very similar. He immediately turned them into the hottest attack in all of Europe. Lewandowski, let's face it. I even asked him this and he agreed. His best form in all of his career came under Hansi Flick. And lo and behold, his redemption season is coming under Hansi Flick. If you're an attacker and you see Hansi Flick walk in the doors of your football club, your eyes should light up. Your eyes should light up in delight. Because however many goals you scored the season before, however many assists you got the season before, probably add 5 to 10 more on top of that, minimum. And it helps too, man, with this La Masia, man. La Masia is just a freak of an institution. Genuinely, like, every single year, Barca bring 3 guys out of that academy that contribute to their first team. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's the biggest get-out-of-jail card imaginable. You look at the guys that are coming off the bench today. Gavi, Ansu Fati, Victor, starting today, Casado, Fermin Lopez, Lamine Yamal, Alejandro Balde, Pau Cubarsi. All they do is, did I say Fermin Lopez? They just produce first team caliber starters at minimum. At minimum, they're a first team player. At maximum, you have a Lamine Yamal who could be the best player in the world in a few years. It's disgusting, man. It's ridiculous. Even Olmo is ex-La Masia. Facts. It's crazy, man.